and today I am going to do a video on another obsession of mine. Yes, it's all comic related, but we're going to do something a little different, right? And if you can tell, you might be able to tell, it's not just the toys, because I don't have that many toys. It looks like a lot, but it's not really, it's not like this is in the last 5 years that I've gotten this stuff. But there's something else, if you can see, there's something else you can see that might be, you can focus on. It's Hellboy, right? And Mike Mignola's art. So, as I always do, give a long history, go back to when on the seventh day the earth, the Lord rested. Mike Mignola's artist who I guess started Marvel. He started as the inker. His first major work, I think, was Rocket Raccoon, then Alpha Flight. Then he started doing different things with John Byrne on Superman, some World of Krypton. He did Cosmic Odyssey, which was a big thing for him, which sort of said that he was a superhero artist. But then he started to move to do more horror, and I think that was with Gotham by Gaslight, which kind of pushed him that way. And then he did another Batman thing, which was kind of horror in Legends of the Dark Knight. But the real coming out party for him was Dracula, this adaptation of Francis Ford Coppola's movie. Now this edition is missing a key part. That's why I had to keep the other thing, which is back in the back here, which has talks because Roman Coppola was giving Roy Thomas and Mike Mignola a lot of bits. And they decided, hey, let's have Mike Mignola come down while we're trying to hash out this movie because they were having some issues. So that opening of the movie, they kind of talked it out, and Mike Mignola drew a sequence that they later filmed, and they used the design of Dracula's armor, the whole thing. And he couldn't believe that they used his thing, and he was like, well, he was kind of self-depreciating, but obviously I think Roman Coppola also did an intro for that. So, but this is a gorgeous black and white book that's done by Mike Mignola. He has a lot of Frank Frazetta in him, and who's it, Bernie Wrightson. But at the same time, at this point here, a lot of the Frazetta physiques are gone, but some of the sort of the layout, sort of having everything sort of like focus on one thing. But you can't really see it now because you have to look at this old Spider-Man thing he did. But you could see he was still doing sort of classic body types and the Alpha Flight covers. But I don't have any of those there. But first thing I did want you to see that I had pretty much most of the collection. This was the, who was the producer of these toys here? It was Mezco. Mezco, they have a nice Fantastic Four thing coming out. But this is based off of the heads. And it's one of the few that I kept in the case. But this is, if you know the head story, it's a short story, one of Mike Mignola's favorites that he did outside of the Corpse and Iron Shoes. But you had the toy version. Mezco did a really great job. It's almost a better picture of drawing, of sculpting Hellboy and capturing Mike Mignola's art. Not exactly aping it, but you know, getting it close, a nice decent size for the hand. I had a third one which I had that I had out of that, but I think that one's gone forever. I have another one here, so I have two. And if, like with any sort of favorite, you have to have 3 of them, right? So I have this Dark Horse version of Hellboy here, with a thing. This arm is a little beyond, but it's cool. It's not as big as the other ones, but it's what is this? I guess you could say the face is a little closer, but I kind of like this one a little better, but I had to do it. So I think having 3 is the set number, but as we go along, I don't know if it's gonna work. But let's try. We got Roger Homunculus. We have he's gonna turn into dominoes. He's gonna turn into dominoes in a second. Yeah, okay, he's holding up. You know, we have Abe, we got Liz, Lobster Johnson. This is the alien that stayed. This is well, I also have the head here. He's one of the major villains. It's been a while. Got the major villain. This is the animated gorilla that he has, and Professor Hauptmann. I think I got that. So I didn't get the villains. So but this is Hauptmann here, and then this one I had to cheat. It's been a while. So all this other stuff. There's 3 Batman. So you know if you have a favorite, at some point somehow I got 3 Batman action figures. I think the 3rd one, I'm not sure where it's at. There's Star Wars here, but this is something that a friend of mine made or had made, and a friend of mine bought, and someone made, and of course, it's with the rest of them. So I haven't painted it, and I don't want to ruin it, so I keep it as this. But that's here. Some other stuff that might give me cancels up here. If you can see it, comment. But since we're here, you think that was it? Nope. We got the first edition of Hellboy, scripted by John Byrne. And this, I think, can you see? Yeah. This would be what I was talking about, sort of having that sort of Frazetta type layout here, right? Where you have the character. And yeah, this classic. This is the first one. John Byrne inking it. I should have had the artist edition here, but let's keep going, right? That's the first miniseries. This is how Hellboy made his bones. It would release a 5 or 4 issue miniseries, and then it'd be released in a trade. And the trades kind of kept the Hellboy alive, right? So in the trades, it started to do better, and it would make, Dark Horse and Mike Mignola some more money. So they kept going. So then also, the plan for Hellboy was initially to do a sort of work with Arthur Adams, but Arthur Adams kind of fell behind. And kind of fell on. He fell completely behind. So all of these short stories that were supposed to be in Arthur Adams's what's his thing? Monkey Man on O'Brien, that stuff, didn't happen. So the Iron Shoes is all supposed to be in the backup of Monkey Man and O'Brien. So that didn't have anywhere to go. So then he started releasing them in Dark Horse Presents. We have the Chain Coffin. This is a great story here. This is about Hellboy's mother and actually Hellboy's father in here. And let's see what else. Yeah. And some of this gets revealed. Who Hellboy's mother is gets revealed much later. But he does well. This is one of the best because he's going into a church, a priest that he knows. And this is where, without trying to hit you over the head that he's a good guy, they start doing some, pretty solid stuff. I think it's Kate Corrigan. She's in this. So all of the short story, The Wolves of St. Augustine. So kind of getting to do, a lot of different things. But all these short stories here was stuff that was supposed to be in Monkey Man and O'Brien, right? So with all those short stories sort of populating and appearing in different places, you get people jazzed up for some short stories. The Right Hand of Doom, this kind of giving you some hints of where the right hand came from. And a new Beast of Apocalypse in here. And as you see, as it goes on, it gets less classic sort of Frazetta, less regular sort of muscles, and more into the chiaroscuro type of high contrast art, that sort of thing. And all of these always have a sketchbook. This is cool, really cool. There's always a sketchbook in here. There's always some commentary by Mike Mignola about his artwork in here too. So let's keep going. So then, with all of those many things, another big 4-part story came out. And this was Conqueror Worm. This would close off everything that was going on with the Nazi stuff that was in the first series. All of this stuff gets closed off here, right? And this had Roger the Homunculus, who was introduced in one of the 2-parters. What else? You see the alien in here. You see the Conqueror Worm. And Hellboy ultimately leaves the BRPD the BPRD. I always get that. I always mix that up, right? So as soon as he leaves, this is where, now, let's see, how far I go? Oh, 10 minutes. I'm not going doing too bad. So right at that point, that's when I think the movies sort of coming out after this point. Once the movies started coming out, you started getting prose novels by Christopher Golan and Mike Mignola. This one, this one's pretty fun, right here. But the one there's many more that I don't have. But this one here, The Bones of Giants, where he has Mjolnir, and he finds the bones of obviously the Norse gods or the ice giants and stuff like that. And yeah. I don't finish this one here. This one, Odd Jobs, I haven't finished Otter Jobs. I'm still going through that one. So there's some stuff I had to complete in Otter Jobs. But then there's a ton of other Hellboy novels. So we're going to keep going, right? So the movie comes out there. There's a Hellboy movie with Ron Perlman. The second part that didn't do as well. But if you look at them, they're a little wacky. They play up too much Hellboy, having these casts to make him sort of likable. But at the same time, it's visually very strong with Guillermo del Toro. So they had that, and then I think Mike Mignola talked about, since Hellboy was gaining some popularity, and I always call Hellboy kind of like an image character done right. Now, not to say the image characters are done wrong, but the image characters didn't seem to have a lot of backstory to them, right? So now, Mike Mignola added all this history of the actual demons from hell, like all of those characters, a lot of backstory with his mother that's connected to this monastery, and even more than that as you get to the later things. So there's a ton of backstory that he can fall onto and to draw from. And then also he has a lot of what else does he have in there? There's a lot of just pulling out the actual myths and then sort of retelling them. And I think that's similar to what who's that, Neil Gaiman does. And they said like Mike Mignola said they possibly have some of the same books on their shelves because they're drawing from the same thing. And this story here where Hellboy goes to Africa, I think is this Macoma? No, this is the island. So here they had this story where he goes back to Africa. That's going to lead to a bunch of other stories here, right? So he goes back. Oh, there's this island. He goes on this travel, and this one actually, in Strange Places, actually gives you the history of the right hand of Doom, and it being made way back at the time of creation, and how it sort of lasted all this time, which Hellboy is not with. He's totally not with. And so most of these things, Mike Mignola was drawing, right? And one of the things that he said in an interview, he said that it would be hard at this point, since he created it, and like obviously his Superman would look wrong to a lot of people, maybe his Batman looks wrong to a lot of people, but he said, but Hellboy as a character he created, he can't be actually wrong by me because it's a character I created. And you could see there was a struggle with artists to draw Hellboy, right? But then slowly, I think, who was it? Bernie Wrightson did a cover for Dark Horse Presents, which I don't have here, but it was a beautiful cover, and it's one of the first times where I was like, whoa, this is one of the few that really did Hellboy justice, right? So as you go along this story, P. Russell started drawing Hellboy. He does a decent one here. It's really, and their art is sort of similar. They're drawing, I think, from the same sort of thing, but less use of dark, like spotting the blacks the same way. So similar. But then as you go along, Mike Mignola started drawing less. Oh, and here it is. So, and everyone who's a fan of the artist Richard Corbin, he comes along and he does this Macoma story, which is from an African legend. and I think he does a really bang up Hellboy. So that was kind of a shocker, because I've seen his art before, and his art is great, but it's just like, will it work for Hellboy? And it totally does. And he did of a bunch of miniseries with Mike Mignola, and then of course the Troll Witch and Other Stories. Right. So there's the short story that he was putting out, and then he's also these miniseries. So that's the short stories. The number of these, so you see the order of them, right? And of course they keep stamping these stickers on them. But Darkness Calls, the supposed to be like the end of the world type of thing, and get into the actual history of Hellboy, who his mother was, and that sort of connection. And then Duncan Fedrigo does this series, and he does something like his style, but something we're in between, where it's kind of like Mike Mignola and his style merged together. And one of the things he can do is he was able to do sort of different angles using this sort of mesh of his style and Mike Mignola's, and it's just really gorgeous stuff. So for me, it was kind of tough because I really loved Mike Mignola's art, and I think this storyline is pretty. This is a really action-packed storyline, but at the same time, I think when you get to the next one after Darkness Calls, because I think does Hellboy get this blade here in this one? The sword. Yep. So we're going through it, right? We get to the Wild Hunt. And the Wild Hunt is what you see in the movie, in the current movie with David Harbour, right? And this has the whole thing going back to people that are connected to his father and stuff like that. And then just Hellboy gets the blade and stuff like that. And Drago just really did some gorgeous stuff. This is a great period. I think a lot of people dropped out during this period, but I think because it wasn't Mike Mignola, but you got Morgan Le Fay comes in here, and if you keep thinking about that, they get to tell you who Hellboy's mother is as you keep going on. You had the sword, and you had the Beast of Apocalypse, but this is something that he's been fighting. This is the key part to the Hellboy story, which didn't run out of steam at all, because he's the Beast of Apocalypse that kind of turned it down. Like he comes from from hell, and he kind of turns it down, and then he's constantly told that he's supposed to do this, but he always fights it. He always able to fight against it, even at points where it's like it's supposed to be the end of the world, and he turns it down all the time. And then his son, Morgan Le Fay here, and so it's just this struggle that he has, right? And I'm not going to tell you what the sword is, but you can probably figure it out with everything that I've already established, right? This hint of what's going to be, keep seeing what's supposed to happen, and keep saying, nah, it's not the case. But see, with all that drama, let's go back. I'm not sure if it's in here, but let's see if it is. The corpse and iron shoes. This is the head. You see the action figure? This is the head storyline. This is right here. I found it. It's a 2-pager. This is the key to Hellboy right here. Beast comes, he's where Hellboy's here in the army, and they're trying to give him pancakes. He's like, no, I don't want pancakes, it's the army. So of course they force him to have pancakes, and then he likes it and he wants more. and then all of hell, pandemonium, capital C hell, they are losing it, and they're just like, "What is all the noise about? It's the boy. He's eating the pancake. He'll never come back to us now. Truly, this is our blackest hour." Right? So that is the key Hellboy story. That's something that he. So then there's one other one where, and I'm saying those are the key stories in between all this heavy action, all this connection with Morgan Le Fay. But this one has everybody. Kevin Nolan. Now, if you've seen Kevin Nolan, this is a fan favorite. I've been always kind of iffy on him, but at the same time, he's been a gorgeous inker. But he kind of shut me up. He shut me up a big time. Hellboy. You can see some of the Hellboy wrestling with Richard Corbin in here. You can see that from there. Double feature of Evil, like all this Corbin stuff, which led him to do a lot of work from Darkness. So if you're a fan of his, or was, after doing Hellboy, he started doing a lot of stuff with Darkness. Look, this is, going out in style, like with such a great career. With I think the stuff he did. But let's see, The Bride of Hellboy is in here. And then, of course, this is the Kevin Nolan story with classic Kevin Nolan art. If you notice it, the faces always kind of bug me, but he did a really nice Hellboy. And this is like, totally shut me up, right? I was like, oh, this guy, and of course he has cows in it. So like, this is competing with Mike Mignola. Well, all these artists, they really started doing bang up job with Mike Mignola's character. Like, and it was almost like, is gonna be okay when Mike comes back in comparison to some of these guys? Like, it's, oh man, do I have, where's the other story? Man, it's gonna be hard to find. Alexander has done some, what has he done? Some Spawn. And I want to get you to this really nutty story in here. Coming back. Okay, the Mike Mignola's back here, but this is the key story. Like, these short stories are some of the best of what he's done here. So we have, Hellboy playing cards with possibly these dead people, and Hellboy sees the mole. We say, where did that come from? But I see he's playing cards, but at the same time, there's nobody there, right? He sees this mole, and it's like something, where it's like, and ultimately, this leads to the end of the world, right? The mole happens. His true nature comes out. He turns into this monster. Hellboy is just, his skin is just, he sheds his skin. This new beast is out here. His skin just starts to float and fly around, going towards his church. And you see the right hand of doom right there. And you see the beast of apocalypse holding the right hand of doom. You see it getting dark behind on the other side of this. You see his skin that he shed just going around here. It starts to get darker. You see him chanting those words, the beast of apocalypse. Anung Rama. And then he wakes up. Right? And then he looks on his hand, he doesn't have a mole. It's just a dream. But it's dark. Right? That's one of my favorites. I got it. I got to do this. How long am I at? I'm at 26. We're getting through this. But the Fury, this leads to Hellboy with the sword, leads to everything that's going on, and to what everyone's heard on the news, that Hellboy died. Right? Right? So after that, you got Descent, where he goes to hell, where I think Mike Mignola planned to do this for a long time, but I think he finished it in 2 miniseries, and he was like, oh, I'm done. And he closed it off. But to find out more stuff about Hellboy, you have to go to the BPRD. This is the miniseries. This is the first one, which has Ryan Sook. It also has one of the first stories by Where's the artist here? Sook. That. Nope, he's not in here. But the mainstay artist, Hellboy comes back to that thing. So, as I finish this out, even though Hellboy died and he was part of the BRPD sort of thing, that didn't stop Mike Mignola from doing short stories. Bargoo with Duncan Fedrigo. This is also the other boom, is that a lot of these artists of his, some of his artists he's fans of would do great stories. The Midnight Circus with Duncan Fedrigo. This is a really beautiful book. Hopefully they'll do some more of this. Now, Gary Gianni, he did some backup stories in Hellboy, I think in the second miniseries, which Arthur Adams was supposed to do. But Gary Gianni did some really amazing stuff. His book was Monster Men, that was in the back of Hellboy. Check that stuff out. He also did, I think, Prince Valiant for a little while. I think they've done a release of that. Richard Corbin did the House of Living Dead. This is post him being as a wrestler, which you saw in the movie. This takes and fights all sort of monsters. Frankenstein, I think Dracula's in it for a second, possibly another monster. And then, since I'm the Mike Mignola fan, you had to have the amazing Screw-On Head. There's an artist edition of this, and I have the artist edition of Hellboy, which has some great stuff in it. That doesn't end this led to be the first zombie sort of comics of the present day, right? He did Champion of the Worm. This is a classic sort of zombie story, because the zombies have a sort of a master that leads to doing a story where after this story happens, the zombies are released because of this character who is Mike Mignola and Pat McEwen, and after this thing they fail, the zombies are on the earth, and they have the Conqueror Worm is out here. This is the person who brings it out, and at the same time, these zombie hunters are going to try to fight against this. But this is how the classic zombies were before The Walking Dead, right? Before The Walking Dead, you have that. Before I leave the Hellboy stuff, you also have drawings by Mike Mignola. This has some watercolor stuff. I think he's done more than this. Sketches in here, and then you have Hellboy in Prague, right? So from him being in Prague, he did these drawings of Hellboy in Prague, right? Okay, I think that's getting close to the end. I know another friend of mine doesn't watch the show. He got me to do this Dave Cooper book, Weasel, which has some by Frantic Graphics. Obviously, Dave Cooper does some great stuff, and it has some drawings by some odd stuff by Mike Mignola in here. All right. And the last thing, some things that I haven't yet to complete reading. We have Baltimore, or The Steadfast Tin Soldier and the Vampire. This led to many comic books that Mike Mignola is doing. This is the book that Joe Golem in the Drowning City. This was the book he was supposed to do right around 9/11, but since he wanted to do a New York City that was all messed up. And this detective that walked around in there, but 9/11 happened. He postponed it. He did it as a novel, which led to some comic books of that too. Right? Do you have anything else? I don't have the artist edition here. Mike Mignola is drawing a lot less, but at the same time, we have all this work. We have all this work from all these other talents Oh, it's only sad we didn't get a Bernie Wrightson full Hellboy story. That kind of would close the circle. But if there's anything else, I do have the BPRD tattoo. If you stayed this long. Here's the artist edition for Hellboy. This has Hellboy in Hell and some other stories. So it's a gorgeous edition. Oh, maybe just get me out. And get to see this gorgeous Mike Mignola art. All right. Mood and the Church Girl. I like to call this high contrast. All this is Hellboy in Hell. And then we have the corpse story in here. I think we had the earlier stories. Yep, that's the corpse. The Troll Witch. So there's also another artist edition, as I said, but here's the artist edition of Hellboy to complete this obsession. No, it's not complete. It's not complete yet. Putting that down. We're coming back. The last bit that I forgot in the earlier part is that John Byrne said when he was working with Mike Mignola on Hellboy that Mike Mignola was doing, if you know it, I think it's I'm not sure, it was Harvey character called Hot Stuff. So Byrne was saying Mike Mignola was doing Hot Stuff growing up. So this at point, unconnected with Byrne, with Bill Ray, where they said they should do a Hellboy Jr., which is basically a gruff sort of Hot Stuff, right? So we have all these wacky sort of characters, and you know, Bill Ray getting to play and do all of these wacky sort of characters, right? So there's three issues, three issues in the trade paperback. Excuse me. There's 3 issues in the trade paperback. So I had Bill Ray doing a lot of stories. He did some really gorgeous art here. He's colored, cartoon, anything you can imagine. It seems he's in comic books and art and animation. He's done it. You have Hilary Barter doing some stuff. Pat McEwen is in the next, the one shot. Yeah. So it's had a lot. I think Dave Cooper's in here. So you have a lot of stuff. Well, this is the sort of anthology stuff that you see in the Harvey sort of stories, but all very sort of dark humor type of thing. Hilly Barta, that sort of thing. So we're gonna close the Sparky Bear, like a gruff sort of Yogi Bear story, right? And to end this thing, would we end it on Savage Dragon and Hellboy? I thought it was kind of wrong. This was a fun sort of story, even though it had Hellboy and Savage Dragon had to exit through a monster, one of the orifices. So it's not really orifices. By saying that in Savage Dragon, you know where they exited, right? But this was a fun thing, and it brought me back to Savage Dragon, which I stayed with till issue 34. I stayed with to issue 50? No, maybe I stayed through 75. Yes, from 34 I stayed through 75 after this 2-parter. And then I went cold turkey on Savage Dragon. So lastly, well, just to show you the 20-year Dark Horse 20 years, him doing, Mike Mignola doing some of the classic characters that were concrete. We got Tarzan, Monkey Man and O'Brien's in there, The Rocketeer, Sin City, Alien. You have all the classic characters that appeared in this sort of book, except one that made them a little bit of money, but obviously they have to get the rights to get them to agree to do it. So I can't really fault them for that. But then we have to go to the start of it all. The comics, yeah, this is the start, the first published sort of Hellboy thing in X-Men. This is a John Byrne book, John Byrne's X-Men, and at the same time, with my favorite logo of that one, which I think Byrne now uses the middle logo, but this is one of my favorites and favorite stories. And I think in the artist edition they have this story in there, so that'd be a good book to get. But this is the first appearance, and Mike Mignola does the middle portion of this story. So that is my end. Go out there. Didn't have the time to get some Hellboy action figures, get some trades, get some crossovers. Try to get the first appearance. If you're if you like novels, go get the book. And is there anything else? I don't have a poster. I need a poster, do I? I do have a Mike Mignola poster here, but that was something I think somebody gave me at a Comic-Con. But I don't have a Hellboy poster. But that's it. I finally finished. Spinner Rack out.